actually living one of the lessons in the last talk, which is I'm surrounding myself with people much smarter than myself right now. It's pretty good to be here. My name is Kunal Mehta. I'm a recovering investment banker, an author, and entrepreneur. 2 years ago, I decided to leave Wall Street in search of a career in entrepreneurship and social impact. And I had some early failures along the way. I didn't know what the career would necessarily look like. But I've since pulled myself out, and now I'm the founder of a real estate business in New York City. I'm working on a venture that will allow doctors and patients to video chat for the very first time to give like a holistic approach to healthcare. And I'm also a finance and strategy associate with Charity Water at the nonprofit Charity Water, which has provided clean and safe drinking water to over 4 million people around the world. I think that's impact that really matters. You all are going to face a really tough decision in the coming months or years, depending on what year you are right now. And that decision is going to be when you have JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, and top consulting and banking firms knocking on Harvard's doors looking for your resumes. It's going to be tough to say, should I take that job that offers a higher status and a higher wealth? Or should I look to jobs that might be really far off the traditional career path and offer me something more, maybe a place where I can have more of an impact? You might be criticized for the decision that you might take right away. But it's those decisions that are agonizing and tough decisions that college graduates all over the country are facing right now. And the way I got through that decision was by meeting some of the greatest entrepreneurs of our generation and speaking with them and having candid conversations about the early failures they faced. And in these raw moments when I was discussing with them, these were entrepreneurs that had been working on a company for 5 or 6 years and were now realizing that they might be failing. Or on the flip side, a young 16, 17-year-old who just got venture back and is doing really well by all society standards. Regardless of the outcome, whatever they were looking at, each of these entrepreneurs were building with passion. They had fire in their stomach that was infectious. And it was those kind of conversations that I went and featured in this book, Disruptors. So I've been on this college book tour for the last couple of months, and I've been meeting college students, hundreds of college students that are now going into their full-time careers without a full understanding of what the job will look like. And they don't know what that career is going to look like in the next 3 or 4 years. They just know what it's paying, but they don't know what the job that they're going to do is. And I've been working with disenchanted consultants and lawyers and bankers who want to be doing something different, but they just don't know how. And I can empathize with them. Because when I was 17 and I was graduating high school, I had these wild, idealistic dreams, even freshman year. And some of those dreams were maybe I can go to med school. Or maybe I can start this nonprofit that will bring aid to Marines that are coming home, mental care. Had all these dreams and visions of grandeur, and then everything stopped and came to a halt when I took the practical decision because JP Morgan was offering a full scholarship to attend the NYU School of Business. So I went in there and I saw a career in investment banking and movies like Boiler Room, books like Liar's Poker, and made it seem like the most exciting field to be in. So I went in and excited, and by 19, reality started to set in. I was one of the youngest investment bankers, but by 20, I was realizing that I really just hated my job. I wanted to be doing something different. I wanted to have an impact now. And the entire tech and entrepreneurship revolution was passing me by. It was much easier to start a company now than it was ever in the past. So finally at 22, I walked away, and I thought I'd find success in 2 weeks, because you have this entire false sense of confidence by reading blogs that says, if you read the Lean Startup Machine, you'll be fine. If you go and read 4-Hour Work Week, you'll be fine. Or just read these blogs, and you'll be set to start a company in 2 weeks and do well. And you'll get venture back in 6 months, and you'll be selling your company in a year for a couple $1 billion. And all these myths get into your head, and you think you're capable of all these things. And I left, and I was tested. I mean, your savings account is tested, you're criticized by mentors, and you start to discourage yourself because of the type A personality. You have no direction now in your career. And that resume that you've been building for the last 5 years is now worthless. What helped me to get through this was the understanding that there have been hundreds of people before me that had also gotten frustrated with their corporate jobs. And were now, and they, at that time, they were just nobodies. Through persistence and resilience, they had become the Scott Harrisons of the world, charity work, or Lauren Bush-Lauren feed projects, or Kunal Mehta, Vin Bucanti, a bunch of Harvard grads like Alexa Von Tobel, the Bolivar sisters, and all these entrepreneurs that I'd eventually feature in Disruptors, like Jack Dorsey and Richard Branson. And now we know their success because we read it, and we read it from the end of the journey back. So we know they're successful, and we reverse back, and we read through the entire thing. But who were they when they were graduating college? And what were they doing when they were sitting in a room like this, thinking the same things that we're thinking today? And it's stories like that that I thought would bring more of our college graduates and more recent graduates and professionals to realize optionality, that they have options, to think differently about their careers, and to embrace failure. So if you take this notion of embracing failure, that's something that's going to be very important in social impact. You might be familiar with the founder of Spanx, Sarah Blakely. Spanx is an undergarment shapewear company that many of you are probably familiar with. I see a lot of people nodding. It's a shapewear company, and she's also the youngest female billionaire on the Forbes billionaire list. So she's doing really well. But her success metric was really interesting. In the interviews that she gives, she said the reason that she's successful is because her father always pushed her to fail. And that's a wild concept that seems to not make sense. What kind of father would encourage their daughter to fail? But every night when they would sit down at the dinner table, he would ask her, what did you fail that day? And if she didn't have a good enough answer, she had disappointed him. What he was trying to do was push this into her mind that if you're not failing, and you're not taking risks, and you're not learning from them, you're not really living. And otherwise, if you don't take those risks and fail now, you're going to wake up 40 years later regretting it, and you're going to be taking those important decisions when you need to happen. And that's something that goes on. I mean, that was a trend that I saw over and over again in the entrepreneurs that I spoke to for Disruptors. Kunal Mehta was offered, he graduated from UPenn. He was offered an offer for Goldman Sachs, which I'm sure many of you will. He rejected it, and he said, I want to go start a company. He found $2 million in venture funding right before the tech boom. At 24, he went bankrupt. So at 24 years old, he was going back to his investors and saying, I just lost everything. He didn't turn back. He didn't go back begging for a job at Goldman Sachs, because he just knew that wasn't the right fit for him. Instead, what he went and did is he started another company, and he went and sold it at 27 times. Since then, he started 4 companies, and now he's an investor in them. And it goes into social impact too. Andrew Yang, who's a disgruntled lawyer, graduated with a lot of law school debt and went out, tried to start a nonprofit. And he said to me for the book that a year after I started the nonprofit, I hadn't taken income, I was doing everything right. A year after the nonprofit, he failed. And he was lying in his living room, he had sold all his furniture for income. He had a completely barren apartment. And he was laying on the floor and wondering how he had failed so miserably and so publicly. Now he's a successful founder of Venture for America, which is placing young, ambitious individuals in startups across the country. So these themes of failure are something that we're going to see, and embracing are things that you all should really take in right now when you're about to start, if it's a social impact organization, it's a for-profit organization, because in social impact, this idea is that you're going to be challenging some of the biggest NGOs for societal problems that haven't yet been solved, and they haven't yet been solved. And these are mammoth crises that we're all looking at right now. So I've been working at Charity Water for the last year, and I've had the privilege to witness the founder, Scott Harrison, and how he works. And Scott Harrison has a unique story. He was once a signature, was a poster boy for all vices. He was drinking a lot, he was doing drugs, he was clubbing, basically, he was a party promoter from New York City, and doing quite well. And at 27, he had a cathartic moment. He moved over to Africa on just an aid trip, and came back, and his life changed. He sold all his possessions, and he kept failing in the beginning. He had this idea that he wanted to start a nonprofit, because what Charity Water does is it provides clean water. Now what it does is it provides clean water, clean and safe drinking water to people in need in developing countries. And they do that through a unique model. But when Scott had this vision of accomplishing that, NGOs were rejecting him. Nobody really wanted to fund an ex-party promoter. And he was reaching his failures. In the first year, he realized that he had to turn and change the entire way people view social impact and nonprofits. Because right now, at the time, nonprofits were viewed as like a black hole of funding. They would go in, you would put $1 into a nonprofit, you didn't know how much was being cut into overhead. You didn't know how much was going towards marketing or salaries or mailings. And he changed his entire model, flipped it over its on its head, and said, every dollar from public donation will go straight to the field. So if you give $1 today, 100% of it will go to the field, and we'll figure out our overhead expenses in a different way. And that model worked, and it resonated. And then he realized that nonprofit, social impact organizations don't really tell stories. They don't tell stories of people that were impacted. So he worked on brand, and he hired the right people to get that done. So what Scott Harrison did through failure is just change the entire way nonprofits are viewed and how it resonate with donors and partners that we work with. So I don't want to. Libby's about to throw something. I need to think about all the time. But just to wrap up, I think this entire sexiness and craziness around entrepreneurship and startups, everywhere you look, is like another article about it. I mean, Wall Street Journal cover isn't about the big banks anymore. It's not. It's always about one of these startups that's not something. And it's frustrating because it's not offering a dose of reality of what the actual situation is like. I mean, like the speakers before me said, this is it's a long journey. It's very tough. But it's worth it in the end because you're actually working towards something you're passionate about. And you can't be fearful of failure because that fear is so crippling that you'll keep doing some job that you don't like. And the longer you stay in that position, the harder it is to get out and more doors start to close around. So I would urge you to go out, work in things that you're passionate about, build those out further, and reach out to more professionals. I mean, everybody's more connected now, so we're willing to help.